At Healthcare Partners Medical Group, our mission is to provide the highest quality of healthcare to each and every patient. With 5 locations in Pahrump, we are local doctors you know and trust. We want to thank you for choosing us. Quality care starts here.
Well, mushroom, or should we say coffee creamer clouds and fireballs, filled the sky near Highway 372 and Margaret Street last Friday afternoon. The crew of a new show that will be airing next month on the National Geographic Channel called Curveball were in town shooting some science experiments.
Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's an interesting show about science. I was one of those kind of school geeks that I kind of hid it from the world that I was massively obsessed with science, but grew up in workshops and rebuilding cars and all this kind of stuff. And finally, one day, about 6 months ago, I woke up and said, you know what? I'll admit, I'm a geek. I'm an engineer. I've been sort of designing things that are in shops, and we came up with the concept for the show, which is basically to take science. As people take sort of magic out to the streets, we're taking science out into the streets, which is just unusual and fresh. So we're actually getting regular guys like you or I just to be part of science experiments, like the one that's actually in the process of going on behind me, which is a coffee creamer bomb. And if you think back to your physics lessons or your biology lessons or these lessons you were at school, they were really interesting, burning pieces of magnesium using Bunsen burners, all this kind of stuff. It was fascinating times. Physics was a great, or whatever you call it, physics over here, right? Is it called physics? It was a really interesting lesson, but a lot of us aren't allowed to celebrate the fact that we loved it so much. Well, I am. I'm that guy taking to the street and saying, I loved it too. Let's do some of this stuff in the street. Let's do some of this stuff in Pahrump. Because you guys, to be fair, I've got to be honest, you guys are the only people in town, in this particular county, that will allow us to do this, which I really, really appreciate. Clark County, big no from them. Not happening at all. So,
what are we about to see right behind us here? I see that we have some flares going off and some kind of cannon.
Let me tell you what this is. This is a coffee creamer cannon. That's right. Basically what it is, it's demonstrating a very simple scientific principle, which is that things need, this is going to go off behind us in a minute, this is a big explosion, things need oxygen to burn, okay? And it's a very, very fine powder, coffee cream. So what it's actually... Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Back to Tim.
That was coffee cream.
That was coffee
creamer. Next time you make yourself a cup of coffee, don't blow it too hard. That's what'll happen. How cool is that?
That is so crazy.
That is science right there. There's no need for magic, no need for sort of, just twisting people's, sleight of hand and this, that, and the other. That is science right there. All you've got there is compressed air, a flame, and coffee creamer. Bang.
Lots and lots of coffee creamer. One of the things that you talked about was, of course, Nye County allowing this to happen. Really quickly, I might add, because usually I have to take out permits and go through a lot of red tape to do this. Of course, you guys got a quick nod, okay, to do this right here on Ski's property.
The most amazing thing about Nye County is the fact that we were ringing around different counties to find out where we could do it. Skip put us in contact with Ski. Within minutes, it was like, you guys can come here and do it, which we thank you for massively. It's great to find a county in America that will say, come over, let's do it. Let's do something interesting, like what we just saw there. So that's amazing.
Let's talk about your show. On the National Geographic Channel.
From an English production company which makes many programs around the world, and we are basically traveling the world doing science experiments in the street, and just amazing people, amazing myself, amazing you, amazing everybody, like the one we just saw. It's as simple as that. So we're not from the BBC, as all Americans assume when you speak like this, and hello, I'm from the BBC. No, I'm not actually from the BBC. We're from National Geographic Channel here in America.
There you go.
Yes.
So you guys are going to be having a traveling show,
yep.
And so all different places. Can we see that? Can we watch it on the web, or we can watch the National Geographic Channel? And when's it going to start?
The show starts in 2 months on the National Geographic Channel around the world. It'll go to all the countries, but it's based here in America. This is the homeland. This is where the science starts from. This is where it all emanates from. So we're traveling to begin with the US and taking science to the streets here. Wonderful. So if you want to see it, National Geographic Channel, it's called Curveball.
For more information on Curveball, go to the National Geographic Channel. This is Deanna O'Donnell for News 46. And here's part 2 of that story with the National Geographic Channel and their film crew, and a show that they were filming called Curveball at Nevada Public Auction on Margaret Street this past week. We spoke to the owner of the auction house, Ski Sensky, about his vision for Pahrump and the film industry.
What we're trying to do is, Nye County being the largest county or third largest county in the United States, there's a lot of good filming opportunities here. So what we're trying to do, Skip Burrows, a very famous special effects guy, lives here in Pahrump now, or he works here in Pahrump. So we're trying to invite as many of these movie companies as we can out here to enjoy some of the benefits that we have. the open space, the air, and the snap.
One of the things that's key, especially to a film crew, is the weather, because it's pretty predictable, and also the fact that you can kind of change your location scenery as you see fit.
You bet. You know, we have everything going for us. We've had, I think, 3 or 4 crews out here now doing different special effects filming. Every single one are ecstatic. You know, and the hope is through economic development, we can bring these people in here. It's one more source of income for the town of Pahrump and the county of Nye. What's impressive is compared to how they get treated in other counties and in municipalities, it's really flawless here. You know, they've got nothing but great support. The Chamber of Commerce.
That's one of the things that they talk about, is that it was so easy to come here, get their job done. Here they're spending money in our town, lodging in our town, food in our town, and also they don't have to go through the red tape here to film something that would normally take maybe a few weeks. They've come out here and in one day done all the shots.
You bet. You know, that's a good example of the town, the county, all the agencies. Everybody chips in just to make this thing happen. They just love coming out to Pahrump. You know, out of all the crews that have come out here, I've not heard one bad thing.
Yeah.
You bet.
So you're hoping that this may continue, that somehow or another we'll start promoting the town as a location where they can film.
You bet. We've already, I think we've got about 4 or 5 more coming in.
And what's going on in the state of Nevada? I don't know. We'll tell you all about it in your News Across Nevada. Nevada's jobless rate dropped to 9.6% in February, down from 11.8% a year ago, and marking the biggest year-over-year decrease among states. A report from the Nevada Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation says about 132,000 Nevadans were out of work last month. That's a decrease of 600 from January and 31,200 from February of 2012. In Las Vegas, the unadjusted rate was 9.8%. The employment rate in February was 10.1% in the Reno-Sparks area and 10.7% in Carson City. The seasonally adjusted national rate is 7.7%. State lawmakers are set to consider enhancing the sexual conduct laws governing relations at schools. 2 bills were presented to the Assembly Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. Current law says school employees or volunteer positions of authority cannot have sexual relationships with students currently enrolled at the same school. The first bill, AB 261, expands that provision to former students who are still minors at the time of the act. A separate measure prohibits the employee or volunteer from engaging in sexual conduct with any minor the person comes in contact with through their duties at the school. Nevada's minimum wage will remain unchanged for the upcoming fiscal year that begins July 1st. For workers who receive health benefits from employers, the hourly rate will remain at $7.25. The hourly rate for workers who do not receive health benefits stays at $8.25. Nevada voters in 2006 approved a constitutional amendment requiring that the state's minimum wage be recalculated annually. Rates are adjusted by comparing increases in the federal rate over $5.15 per hour or the cumulative increase in the cost of living, whichever is greater. While the cost of living adjustment for this year increased over last year, it's still less than the increase in the federal minimum wage that took effect in 2009. Governor Brian Sandoval says he'll propose ending mandatory furloughs for state workers beginning next year. Employees have been forced to take unpaid days off since 2009. Sandoval's initial $6.5 billion general fund budget proposal included reducing unpaid days from 6 to 3 in each of the next 2 years. But in a letter sent to state workers on Monday, the governor says savings from lower employee benefit premiums will free up money to put an end to furloughs beginning July 1st of 2014. Sandoval's budget also includes restoring merit pay increases next year. I'm Deanna O'Donnell. That's your News Across Nevada. When we come back from this break, we'll have your entertainment this week.
Join us at the Pahrump Nugget Hotel and Casino with the #1 gaming experience and entertainment. The Pahrump Nugget has the #1 dining experience at Stockman Steakhouse, Golden Harvest Cafe, and the Gold Miners Buffet. Come get your game on at the Pahrump Nugget Hotel and Casino.